Welcome to this recording of the Silicon South Revamp webinar, which we ran on Thursday, the 21st of May. I want to share where Silicon South is at right now and what we think our role is going to be going forward, and how we hope this can support the digital, creative and tech sector over the next year. Like everyone else, we've been through a pretty intense journey over the past 2 months. We've held plenty of strategy meetings, and in March we were ready to roll out our plans for the year. Okay, maybe it didn't look quite like this, but we were expecting to build on the surging optimism the sector was feeling as the uncertainty of Brexit finished. You might recall that businesses were experiencing pretty amazing Februaries and very strong March forecasts. But our big vision was to build a network to sustainably support the whole of the digital, creative and tech sector in Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, and Dorset more widely. And then we had lockdown. And that's changed everything. Well, it has and it hasn't. Over the past 8 weeks, we've hosted a bunch of discussion groups for leaders of varying different size companies. And we've heard duplicated stories of lost clients, lost revenues, furloughed staff. And as we reach that 2-month point, however, things have begun to settle and companies are gaining a little bit more of a better understanding of the likely impact and getting more of a handle on things. But nothing is certain, of course. There's a strong chance of a second wave, more lockdown, and none of us really know for sure what's going to happen. The consensus seems to be there's little chance of normality coming back before 2021, at the earliest, with a possible second wave due in September. But everyone has their own take, so I won't go into a particular forecast now. What has been clear to us is that paying towards a sector network is unlikely to be the top of anyone's agenda right now. And to be honest, nor should it be. Cash is king at the moment. Hatches have definitely been battened down, and people have to look at themselves, their businesses and their staff. And to be honest, this puts Silicon South in a bit of a precarious position. The good news from our point of view is that after 9 months of quite long negotiation, we finally secured new funding from the European Regional Development Fund. This comes from the same pot and working with the same consortium that supported Silicon South before. So we're partnering up with the Dorset Growth Hub. It's not as much as we had before, and it won't last forever, but it buys us time to do something which we hope can make a difference. And it might give the network capacity to last for the long term. So the certainty of February 2020 has been replaced with something else. But what? How are things going to look a year from now in spring 2021? Could there be a vaccine? Could there be the restaurants reopened? Will retail be back? And what about travel? Of course, no one can really say for sure, but our hope is that in 12 months' time, the world will have more certainty in place. Until then, there's no doubt that there are still some tough times ahead and some tough decisions to be made. There's only so much support that a network can do, we realise. And we don't want to overstretch or overpromise, but then again, we don't want to undersell or dream too small. So right now, we think our best value is to focus on helping people and businesses to get through this period as strongly as possible. Survival right now is pretty impressive. I mean, let's face it, returning to normal with the same level of staff is practically showing off. So once we get through the worst, let's assume things start to improve as we hope. We don't know when, but we're focusing on early 2021. At that point, we want to make sure that you and our sector have weathered the storm and your businesses are there ready to capitalize on the opportunities as they present themselves. At that point, we want to make sure that you and the sector are ready. So for the next year, that's going to be our mission. We're calling it the highly imaginative Mission 21 because it's 2021. So what this means is that for April 2021, we'll do all that we can to make sure that the cluster in Bournemouth and Dorset's digital, creative and tech sector is still very much on top. We want to ensure that we're a success story, a story of survival. And that survival has been built on you as part of the sector, absorbing the shocks, adjusting, developing new strategies, planning, innovating and being bold, not reckless, but still bold. I heard a great quote from an ex-Special Forces leader, Paul Kincaid, this week. He said well, we all know the official motto, who dares wins, but the unofficial motto of the SAS is always a little further. And what that means is if we can go further than people expect us to, we can be in an advanced position before the competition is ready. And we really want to support you with that kind of attitude. Another part of the success story comes from showing we're a cluster of excellence. We all know that, but there's mileage to be gained by emphasizing that point to the rest of the country still, and the world, and to be honest, still locally as well. If we get through this period with business ticking over and one eye on the future, we'll be really well placed to thrive and move quickly when the conditions allow. So what do we need to do to survive, revive, and thrive? We've divided this into 3 areas: an extensive network, direct support for businesses, skills, talent, and lobbying. So let's start with the network. Most of you will already be revising strategies and assessing new opportunities, and it's brilliant how quickly people are shifting from licking wounds to scoping the horizon. I'll come on to what we can do to help with this in a moment, but our starting point is that no matter what you do alone, our position is there's benefit from being part of a larger movement. Think Bristol, think Manchester. Any business immediately has cachet from being associated with those clusters, and we need to generate that same respect. 2, there's a lot of change happening right now. Making the right choices is tricky, but there's a lot to be gained by being able to talk it out with others, sometimes your peers, or maybe with experts. This is something that we think the network can support more strongly. And 3, business structures seem to be changing. People are wondering, should I rationalize my offer? Should I be more niche? It's important to be able to find suppliers and partners who you can trust and work with to fill in the gaps. And this is what we want to build: a database of companies, so we have a map to show off exactly what's happening, what's available, and who's here. It's searchable, so you can find the precise skills that you need to help you. Or potential clients can search for the skills that they need. We're working with organizations like the Dorset Growth Hub and the Gateway and the Engineering and Manufacturing Cluster, so they can point people towards it. Up to now, we've asked companies to pay to be a part of this, but from today, we've made this free for everyone to sign up to. We have the funding to keep it free at least until October, and we'll review it again then. But this gives you a chance to be part of the network and see what being part of it can do for you. At some stage, we'll need to make a charge, but at that point, you'll be clear about whether this is right for you and your business, whether it's working for you or not. We won't be applying any charges without making it very clear beforehand, so no one is going to get stung. Once you sign up, you'll be able to add unlimited articles, stories, and events to the website. And if you do, we'll promote them far and wide on your behalf. This helps us to push that message to stakeholders and prospects across the country about the excellence that you're generating. We'll also be hosting monthly meetups, as much aimed at supporting the workforce as for the founders. We need to work out what the format of this is going to be and how it works, especially if we're going to have to do this over Zoom. But we think there's been a gap left by MeetDraw ending, and we want to make some attempt to try and fill it. I know they're big shoes to fill, but we want to try to make sure that there's still support across all parts of the business. So next comes the direct support for business. There are 2 parts to this. What can Silicon South do to coordinate the goodwill and fellowship being shown by people to help each other out, as well as themselves at the same time? The second is, how do we spend the limited funding that we have to make the most effective impact? So let's start with the funding. We've been able to secure a small grant pot, grants between £1,000 and £5,000. So the grants can cover 25% of your project. And so, for example, if you have a £4,000 project, we can contribute £1,000 towards it. You've got to be based in Dorset. You can't have received a grant from Silicon South or the Growth Hub before, although you can have had other support. The grant has got to be spent on external cost. It can't be spent on salaries. It's just the way that the ERDF has made the rules. And for our first stage, the money has to be spent by the end of June, and then the second stage will be by the end of September, and then finally by the end of December. If you've got any questions about it, speak directly to Megan or to me, and we'll give you a lot more information about how to get involved. Now, grants are a great way for subsidizing external support, but not everybody wants to spend that much money, particularly to get some advice. So we're going to reintroduce the 10th degree program. Essentially, this is where we have 20 companies, 10 experts, and we have a day where each company gets a chance to have one-to-one conversations with experts based in, I mean, it could be entrepreneurs, maybe it's legal, could be finance, maybe marketing, social media, sales, HR, a range of different disciplines. I guess this is going to change because we're probably going to have to run this over Zoom rather than the rather nice Sky Bar in the Hilton. And that'll probably change the format a bit. And we're really open to hearing about the sort of support that you would like. So if you're interested in this, please do let us know. So there'll be more information on that in the coming weeks. We're also going to be hosting a series of focused lunchtime events. We're calling them Bring Your Own Lunch at the moment. Essentially, stakeholder-led discussions about issues which are important for businesses to consider riding the current wave. So at the moment, the topics we've thought about have come out from some of the discussions that we've been having with businesses or businesses have been having with themselves. Things like, how do you reach clients when you're cut off from them? What's the future of the office environment, particularly as we get more and more used to remote working? Can our ambitions be bigger, broader, more international now that we know that we can do business over Zoom? And what's the future of employment and staff? You know, if we are shifting our business models, do we need to employ people? Do we want to work with others? So, I mean, for instance, I already know a couple of companies who are talking with each other because they're thinking, well, actually, we don't need to have an office all to ourselves. So maybe we can combine efforts and share our office and just have it on alternate days. So it's that kind of thinking that we want to really explore. And you know, if we can get a bit of support from some inspiration from the likes of Ollie Perron at lunch, it'd be great to maybe have a theme for each of these lunches as well. Next, we have Meet the Buyer. Unfortunately, now we can't just throw a workshop together. So the format still needs to be worked out. But the idea is the world is becoming more and more digital. All sectors have got to be more creative in their strategies. And most people don't know how to do this. But we do, you do, because you're digital, we think creatively, we develop tech that can make radical changes. So whether it's using data for marketing or supporting remote working with something like SharePoint, implementing Internet of Things strategies, or thinking about customers from a completely new socially distanced perspective, we have a lot of knowledge and we have a way of thinking which can really help other sectors. So we're going to be working with other cluster groups to create opportunities where you can introduce the concepts to the other sectors to start generating new sales prospects. Then we come back to this idea of the power of the crowd. As I said, the director discussions, they've been great. We've divided them into peer groups. So we've had groups of people who have 1 to 5 employees, or 6 to 16, or 17 or more. So it's been a chance for them to come and talk through some of the issues that have been affecting everyone. They're open conversations where the group shares ideas and experiences which everyone can learn from. Most people seem to have got through the turmoil of the past couple of months and are now focusing on the future a lot more than the past. In fact, in one discussion we had this week, we spent a third more time talking about opportunities as we did about talking about challenges, which I thought was really heartening. we want to carry on with these. In terms of content, will be led by the participants. So you define what the agenda is. But we also want to start to introduce a bit of structure to make sure that they support strategic decision making, because this is what's going to keep them relevant and keep us looking ahead. We're also going to be introducing the mentoring program. It's a chance for predominantly younger founders to benefit from the experience of, well, probably should say more experienced ones rather than older ones. We prep the mentees up front so they're ready to ask the right questions, and they have up to 10 one-hour face-to-face conversations with their mentor every month. We also offer the mentors a chance for some instruction in how to mentor. It's usually a lot more revealing than the people expect. In the past, founders have been just brilliant at providing their time. But we're trying to make it slightly easier if you'd like to get involved. So we've added this area in terms of the sign-up process, where if you're interested in providing mentorship to other businesses, please tick it if you or one of your directors would like to get involved. We are looking into research. So there are two parts of this. One is about how do we understand industry trends. Part of this is going to be done by summarizing some of those discussions which are taking place amongst the directors, without betraying any confidences, of course, because that provides a nice way of understanding the flow and the direction that people are going in. But we're also interested in seeing how can we get more substantive research done that we can share across the whole network, bigger, greater, more quantitative data maybe, which people might be interested in. So if you have ideas, please do let us know what they could be. So then skills and talent and the lobbying. Now, the research tells us that up to 70% thereabouts of people in the creative sector admit to having imposter syndrome, at least some of the time. So it's a pretty high number. And we know that some people have struggled under lockdown, especially more junior staff. So we've been developing a format to support the workforce, and this is going to launch in a month or so. Essentially, we will create small development groups of 5 to 7 people, which match people on seniority, specialist area, or around a specific challenge. And we bring them together with others in the same position. It's a chance to have open conversations and share your own experience to see how they can learn from each other. Each group is led and facilitated by a slightly more senior host or a knowledge area expert. So the participants gain knowledge and confidence, which they can then invest in doing their jobs better. So there'll be more about this in late June, early July. So what about the next generation, new talent? It's a big question because I suppose we're seeing employment beginning to fall off a cliff, and the future is not looking healthy for new entrants to the market. But we still think that we have a role to play in shaping the future of the next generation. We can't afford to stop thinking about the longer term. So we're setting up close relationships with the local universities. Silicon South can provide a direct and approved route for businesses to connect with students. This works both ways. So they get to find out who's in the area, because as we know, a lot of students don't really know what the local landscape looks like. And we have a chance to influence students about what the future expectations of employers might be, so they can better prepare themselves for the work. We also know that universities are keen to find placements. So we are adding this area again into our sign-up process, where you can tick if you are open to the idea of apprentices or work experience or placements approaching you. We've been talking with Solent University, who've got a really interesting, more mature apprenticeship program at degree level. So it's like apprentices, similar sort of cost and commitment, but at a slightly more advanced and mature level, which seems to be getting a lot of interest at the moment. So then lastly, we'll just keep on doing what we're doing behind the scenes. It's a lot of lobbying and keeping in touch with stakeholders, local authorities, local enterprise partnerships, national bodies, potential funders, and increasingly other clusters. All of this has helped us to secure a new amount of money through the European Regional Development Fund. It's really good to have this funding through, and we're assured that even when we leave Europe, this commitment will be backed up by the central government. And then we also work with people like the Dorset Business Angels and people related to crowdfunding. Hattie Fawcett's on the call today, who have got expertise and also access to investors for people who are looking for next stage investment. Keeping in touch is something that we will continue to do. We have a regular fortnightly e-news that goes out, which starts to sum up all of the local events and activities and news which are happening locally. And we use this to champion the success of the people who are part of the network. So when you sign up, there is a chance for you to post your own stories, post your own events, and also post contracts as well. And if you do, we will spend time to promote them both through the e-news, but also very regularly through our social media channels as well. So that pretty much is it. That's the mission. I hope these measures, well, through these measures, we play our part in supporting you, your business, and the sector overall. We want to get through a year which, let's face it, is probably still going to throw a few more surprises at us. We want to be able to come out the other side fit, ready, and with the clarity and confidence to push ahead when the opportunities present themselves. We can help with developing a healthy network, providing direct support, developing the skills, the talent, and the confidence, and carry on working behind the scenes for the sector. I think out of all of this, the most important aspect is building that healthy network. There's only so much that we can do alone, but working with you and through your contributions, so much more can be achieved. And I'd like to give a really big thank you to all of you who have given your time to get involved and support these plans and just say nice things about us. It's really appreciated. So here's a link to the website. This is what it looks like. You can get details about everything that I've talked about today, and you can also see how you can connect with 100% discounts for the foreseeable future, so we can really try and drive and develop the network. If you aren't a supporter, I really urge you to go on and sign up. Like I say, it's free from today, and certainly for the ongoing future. And I'd love to see what we can do together. Thank you very much.